It was supposed to be just another quiet evening at home. My daughter was out with friends, the house was empty, and then my phone rang. The voice on the other end whispered words that made my blood run cold. "I hear crying. From your basement." Fear is something that lives in the quiet corners of your mind, waiting for the perfect moment to remind you of its presence. It doesn't announce itself with grand gestures or neon signs. It seeps in slowly, like the shadows that stretch across a room as the sun sets. One moment, you're laughing at a silly joke or scrolling idly through your phone, and the next, a single sound, a single unexpected event can make your heart pound in ways you didn't think were possible. It was like that for me, one evening that began like any other. The house was unusually quiet, the kind of silence that can feel almost comforting until it starts to feel heavy. My daughter had gone to her friend's house for a few hours, leaving me alone with chores and the hum of the refrigerator in the background. I was halfway through preparing dinner when the phone rang, slicing through the calm like a knife. I picked it up, expecting a routine call from a friend or maybe a delivery confirmation, but instead, the voice on the other end was low and hesitant, almost trembling. "I hear crying. From your basement," the caller said. My grip tightened around the phone, my knuckles whitening as the words echoed in my ears. Every instinct in my body screamed that something was wrong, that danger was near, that my safe little world had just cracked open in the most unimaginable way. Fear has a way of magnifying the smallest details. The creak of the stairs became louder. The shadows in the corners seemed to twist into shapes that shouldn't exist. And even the soft hum of the fridge sounded sinister. My mind raced through every possible scenario, from the improbable to the horrifying. Could someone have broken in? Was my daughter's safety somehow compromised even though she wasn't home? Or was this some elaborate prank, one meant to send me spiraling into panic? The ambiguity was almost worse than knowing the truth, because the mind, left unchecked, will fill the gaps with its worst imaginings. I found myself pacing the living room, glancing nervously at the basement door, each step echoing against the walls and amplifying the tension that had settled over me. The phone buzzed again. This time, the caller ID showed it was the lawn service, someone I had met just once when they mowed our yard a few weeks ago. Ma'am," the voice said. "I was just at your backyard, and I swear I heard crying. From the basement." Hearing it from someone else, someone I didn't know very well, made it feel even more real. My stomach twisted, and I felt a cold sweat break out across my skin. It's strange how fear can make your body feel both frozen and hyper-aware at the same time. Every hair on my arm stood on end. Every sound seemed louder, sharper, more menacing. My mind became a battleground between rational thought and instinctive panic. The rational part whispered, "Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's the wind or the pipes." The instinctive part screamed, "Go check. Go see what's down there. Act before it's too late." And so, I did what I feared most. I moved toward the basement. The stairs leading down seemed steeper than I remembered. The air colder, heavier, almost thick enough to hold. With every step, my imagination ran wild. I pictured all sorts of horrors, intruders lurking behind old boxes, something, or someone, waiting in the shadows for me to arrive. The faint sound of crying, or what I thought was crying, floated up to me, and my chest tightened with each hesitant breath. I could feel the adrenaline sharpening my senses, making every creak, every whisper of the house louder and more significant. I felt as though I was stepping into a story I hadn't signed up for, a scenario that only existed in nightmares until that very moment. Fear, I realized, isn't just about immediate danger. It's about the unknown, about the uncertainty that hangs in the air and refuses to let you rest. It's the part of you that imagines the worst before you have a chance to understand what's really happening. When I reached the basement door, my hand hovered over the light switch, trembling despite my best efforts to steady it. I didn't know what I would find, and the uncertainty was crushing. Each second stretched into an eternity as I debated whether to turn on the light or step back and call someone. Fear makes even the simplest choices feel monumental, turning ordinary objects, a door, a staircase, a phone, into symbols of potential disaster. I thought about my daughter and how vulnerable she would be in any real danger. I thought about how quickly a peaceful evening could turn into a memory I would replay over and over in my mind if I didn't act. Fear is intimate that way. It connects you to the people you love. It magnifies your responsibilities. It forces you to confront what matters most in the moments when you feel most helpless. And yet, at the same time, it isolates you. My house, normally a place of comfort, felt alien. The shadows of furniture and stored boxes loomed like threats, and even the familiar scent of home seemed strange under the weight of anxiety. I took a deep breath, trying to push the fear aside, telling myself to stay rational, to move slowly, to observe before reacting. As I stepped down into the basement, the darkness enveloped me, pressing in from all sides. I shone my flashlight across the room, its beam cutting through the shadows but revealing nothing immediately threatening. Fear can be tricky that way. It makes your mind invent dangers even when they don't exist, and it makes every little sound feel amplified, more significant, more ominous. And then I heard it again, faint crying, soft and almost imperceptible. My heart leaped into my throat, and I froze in place. My mind raced through all the possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. I called out, my voice trembling despite my attempts to sound calm. "Hello? Who's there?" The sound stopped, leaving an eerie silence that felt heavier than the noise. I could feel my pulse hammering, my thoughts scattering, my body caught between wanting to flee and needing to know the truth. Fear has a way of holding you in that liminal space, where the only way forward is to confront it, even if you're unsure what you will find. Slowly, I moved the flashlight beam toward a pile of old blankets and boxes in the corner, and my stomach twisted as I prepared for the worst. And then I saw movement, a small figure struggling, tangled among the blankets. Relief and confusion collided as I realized it wasn't a person. It wasn't danger. It wasn't the nightmare my mind had been feeding me. It was a tiny kitten, frightened and mewing, trapped in the corner, its cries mistaken by my imagination, and the lawn guy for something far more sinister. Fear, I realized in that moment, is both a protector and a trickster. It prepares you to face danger, sharpens your senses, and forces you to act with urgency, but it also warps reality, turning shadows into threats and ordinary sounds into omens of disaster. The crying that had sent me spiraling was not a child in peril, not an intruder, not a harbinger of tragedy. It was a small, lost kitten, reminding me that the mind, when gripped by fear, will often fill gaps with its worst-case scenarios, even when the reality is harmless, even when the truth is gentle and innocent. Holding the kitten in my arms, feeling its tiny heartbeat against mine, I could still feel the adrenaline lingering, the echoes of the terror that had surged through me just moments before. Fear had struck without warning, and yet it had also guided me. It had made me act, made me confront the unknown, made me step into a basement I might otherwise have avoided. In that way, fear is inseparable from courage. It is the signal that something matters, that your instincts are alert, that your heart is connected to the world around you in ways you might not even realize. Even as relief washed over me, I understood that fear doesn't simply vanish once the danger, or imagined danger, is gone. It leaves traces, a heightened awareness, a memory of how quickly your life can feel unmoored, how easily the ordinary can become terrifying. Fear strikes when you least expect it, not because it enjoys cruelty, but because life is unpredictable, and the mind is wired to protect, to anticipate, to imagine all the ways something could go wrong. And yet, it also leaves room for reflection, for understanding, for growth, because when the storm of panic passes, you are left with clarity, the clarity of what truly matters, of what you need to protect, of the fragility and preciousness of the moments you often take for granted. Fear can strike in the middle of quiet evenings, in the spaces between ordinary routines, In moments when your mind is most vulnerable to the unknown, it can make a harmless sound seem like a scream, a shadow seem like a figure waiting to harm you, a simple phone call feel like a message from the abyss. But it also teaches you about resilience, about the intensity of love and responsibility, about the strength you never knew you had, until adrenaline and imagination collide in perfect, terrifying harmony. And in that collision, you discover that fear is not just a threat. It's a reminder, a guide, a reflection of your deepest instincts, and an opportunity to confront the shadows in both the world and your mind, to move forward, to embrace what is real, and to cherish what is precious even more deeply than before. Life has a way of presenting itself exactly how you don't expect it to, and sometimes it hides the truth in plain sight, waiting to ambush you with a twist that changes everything. One moment, you think you understand the situation, you feel like you're in control, like you know exactly what is happening, and the next, reality shifts beneath your feet. It's subtle at first, almost imperceptible. The way a shadow falls across a doorway differently than before, the way a sound echoes that doesn't belong, or the way someone's voice trembles with hesitation. You think you know what it means, and your mind starts filling in the blanks with all the possibilities, often the worst-case scenarios, because that is how the human brain works. We prepare for danger, for tragedy, for pain, and sometimes that preparation blinds us to the truth that might have been simple and benign all along. I remember that evening like it was etched in my memory in high definition. My daughter was away at her friend's house, laughing, probably playing some game and sharing secrets, and I was alone in the house. The kind of silence that normally brings comfort instead felt oppressive, like the walls were closing in. That's when the first phone call came, slicing through the quiet like a sudden chill. "I hear crying." "From your basement," the caller said, their voice small, nervous, almost breaking under the weight of whatever they thought they had heard. My body reacted before my mind could fully process the words. My pulse raced, my hands shook, and every instinct screamed that something was wrong. My mind immediately jumped to the most terrifying conclusions. My daughter in danger, an intruder lurking, a situation spiraling completely out of my control. Fear was already gripping me, but then came the twist, subtle at first, and it forced me to see the world in a new light. The lawn guy called next, and hearing confirmation from a stranger's voice somehow made the scenario feel more real, more urgent. His words echoed in my head. I swear I heard crying from the basement. Every fiber of my being wanted to run, to hide, to call someone, to do anything that would absolve me of the responsibility of investigating what was happening. But fear also comes with a kind of compulsion. It drives you forward, demands answers, pushes you to confront the unknown. And so, despite the tightening in my chest and the rapid beating of my heart, I moved toward the basement. The descent was slow, almost torturous. Each step on the creaking stairs sounded impossibly loud, and every shadow seemed alive. My flashlight barely cut through the darkness, leaving vast areas of the basement hidden in shadow, and my imagination filled them with horrors that were entirely made up. The crying, faint and distorted by the house itself, twisted in my mind into something larger than it was, and I prepared for the worst, fully expecting to encounter a scene that would change my life forever. But life has a way of reminding you that reality is rarely what you imagine. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, the crying became clearer, though still faint. My hand hovered over the beam of the flashlight as I scanned the basement, taking in the boxes, the old furniture, the forgotten toys, and the empty corners. My mind raced with every possible scenario, every worst-case outcome I could conjure, yet nothing prepared me for the twist that would come. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw movement, a small figure struggling among blankets and discarded boxes. My breath caught, my muscles tensed, every nerve screaming that this was it, that danger or tragedy was finally here, that this moment would define everything that came after. And then, as I drew closer, I realized it wasn't what I expected at all. The crying wasn't coming from a person in peril. It wasn't a child. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a burglar. It was a tiny kitten, trapped among the blankets, its soft mewling confused for something far more sinister by both me and the lawn guy. My entire body relaxed almost instantly, the adrenaline flooding out in a rush as relief washed over me. I scooped the kitten into my arms, feeling its small, trembling body against mine, and I laughed through tears, realizing how my mind had constructed a terrifying narrative out of a simple, harmless situation. This is the power of twists in life. They reveal the difference between perception and reality, between fear and truth. A situation that seemed dire, even catastrophic, can transform into a moment of clarity, even joy, with just a shift in perspective. What we think we understand is often a small, incomplete fragment of the whole story. Our minds, especially when gripped by fear, try to fill in the blanks, often doing so with the most dramatic and emotionally charged versions possible. In those moments, every sound is amplified, every shadow becomes a figure, every uncertainty is a threat, and our sense of control evaporates. But the twist, when it comes, snaps everything into a new perspective, reminding us that reality is rarely as dangerous or as simple as we imagine. Holding the kitten, I realized how much the mind loves to exaggerate the stakes, how easily our perceptions can deceive us, and how crucial it is to stay present, to gather information, to pause and observe before allowing fear to dictate our emotions. The crying I had heard, the fear I had felt, the tension that had gripped my entire being. It had all been based on assumptions, incomplete data, and the natural tendency of humans to expect the worst. And yet, those assumptions had pushed me to act, to confront the unknown, to face the fear even when I didn't want to. In that sense, the twist didn't just change the situation, it changed me, reminding me that perspective can redefine everything, and that the line between danger and innocence is often much thinner than we imagine. Twists in life also carry lessons about empathy and attention. The lawn guy, for instance, had called with genuine concern, reporting what he thought was a serious problem. My mind immediately painted a scene of horror, but his intention was rooted in care and responsibility, not malice or fear-mongering. The twist came not only in discovering the harmless source of the crying, but also in understanding the human connections that had led us to that moment. The concern of a neighbor, the instinct to protect, and the way small actions can ripple into moments of unexpected revelation. Life's twists often reveal truths about the people around us as much as they reveal truths about the situations we face, reminding us that context is everything, and that what seems threatening at first glance can carry meaning and purpose we hadn't anticipated. The moment I realized the crying came from a kitten and not a human being also forced me to reflect on the assumptions I make in daily life. How often do I, or anyone, jump to conclusions without evidence, allowing fear or anxiety to color my perception? How frequently do I interpret ordinary events as signs of danger or disaster, constructing narratives in my mind that have little to do with reality? Twists have a way of exposing these cognitive patterns, shining a light on the ways we misinterpret the world, and teaching us humility in the face of uncertainty. The twist in that basement didn't just save me from panic. It saved me from believing that my initial fears were the only truth, reminding me that clarity often comes when we slow down, pay attention, and remain open to unexpected outcomes. In storytelling, twists are used to surprise the audience, to create tension and release, to provoke emotional responses that linger long after the narrative ends. In life, twists serve a similar function. They jolt us out of our assumptions, they test our resilience, and they expand our understanding of reality. The basement incident, frightening as it was in the moment, became a teaching moment, a vivid reminder that the world is rarely as simple or as straightforward as it seems, and that our reactions, though instinctive, are often shaped by incomplete information and heightened emotion. The kitten, small and seemingly insignificant, transformed an evening of dread into a memory of relief, laughter, and introspection, illustrating that what appears to be a crisis can often be an opportunity for perspective, growth, and emotional insight. The beauty of twists lies in their ability to reshape our narrative midstream. One instant, your story is dark and terrifying, filled with suspense and anxiety. The next, it can be transformed into a moment of levity, connection, or revelation. This dynamic, this interplay between fear and clarity, between expectation and reality, is what keeps life vivid and unpredictable. It forces us to navigate the space between imagination and truth, to balance instinct with reason, and to remain open to the possibility that what we dread the most may be entirely different from what actually exists. The twist in the basement, where I discovered the kitten, was a perfect illustration of this principle. My imagination had constructed an entire scenario of horror, only for reality to flip the narrative in a single moment, showing me that the stakes were not what I had imagined, and that the true lesson was not about fear itself, but about perspective, attention, and the ability to embrace the unexpected. As I cradled the kitten, I thought about how many moments in life might be similarly misinterpreted, how many events we experience through the lens of assumption, fear, or expectation rather than reality. Twists teach patience, observation, and humility. They remind us that while we cannot always control what happens, we can control how we respond, how we interpret events, and how we allow them to shape our understanding of the world. The basement, which had seemed like a place of terror, became a classroom, and the kitten became a teacher, showing me that even the smallest details can carry profound lessons if we are willing to notice and embrace them. The twist also highlighted the emotional complexity of human experience. Fear, concern, love, and relief can coexist in ways that are difficult to describe, yet they define our engagement with life. We are creatures of anticipation, wired to imagine outcomes and assess risk, and yet the world frequently defies our calculations. When the twist comes, it does so with clarity, forcing a re-evaluation of our beliefs, our emotions, and our assumptions. That tiny kitten in the basement changed the narrative entirely, transforming a story that began in panic and dread into one of relief, introspection, and understanding. It reminded me that the unexpected is not inherently negative. It is merely unknown until revealed, and that the true power of a twist lies in its ability to teach us, shift our perception, and connect us more deeply with our own emotions and the reality around us. There are moments in life that catch you off guard, moments that make you stop in your tracks and realize how fragile everything you love really is. We go through our days wrapped up in routines, busy with work, errands, obligations, the endless scroll of distractions that keep our minds occupied and our hearts somewhat numb. We tell ourselves we'll appreciate the people we love tomorrow, next week, next month, because there will always be another moment, another opportunity. But then life reminds you in the most unexpected ways that tomorrow is not guaranteed, that the people you hold dear are the most precious part of your world, and that the simplest moments of connection, laughter, and presence are the ones that truly matter. That evening, in my quiet house, I was reminded of this in a way that was both terrifying and profoundly enlightening. My daughter was away at her friend's house, her laughter and presence replaced by a silence that was almost too heavy to bear. Normally, I cherished the quiet. It gave me a sense of peace, a chance to breathe. But that night, it became a reminder of absence. I found myself moving through the rooms, noticing details I rarely saw. The way her shoes were neatly by the door, the way her backpack still sat on the couch, the half-empty water bottle she had left on the kitchen counter. Each small trace of her presence brought a pang of longing, a reminder of how much I missed her even though I knew she was safe and happy. We take these moments for granted, don't we? We assume that the people we love will always be there, that their laughter will always fill the spaces of our lives, that the comfort of shared presence is a permanent fixture, rather than a gift to be noticed and treasured. And then the phone call came, the one that shattered the illusion of safety and control. I hear crying, "From your basement," said the voice on the other end. My mind immediately leapt to worst-case scenarios, conjuring images of danger and harm. Fear gripped me, but beneath it, a deeper emotion took hold. A fierce, protective love for my daughter, and a sudden realization of just how much her safety and happiness mattered to me in ways I hadn't fully acknowledged before. Fear has a way of bringing the heart into focus, stripping away distractions, and forcing you to confront what truly matters. In that tense, heart-pounding moment, I understood that love is inseparable from vulnerability, and that the people we cherish most are the ones who shape the intensity of our emotions, for better and for worse. As I descended the basement stairs, flashlight in hand, every shadow seemed exaggerated, every creak amplified, every faint sound echoing as if carrying a message I had to decipher. My thoughts, initially dominated by fear, gradually began to weave in memories of my daughter. The way she laughed when she learned to ride a bike, the countless nights we stayed up talking about her dreams, the quiet mornings spent sipping hot chocolate and watching cartoons together. These memories surged through me with a force that made my pulse race for reasons entirely different from fear. They reminded me of what I stood to lose if I didn't truly appreciate the people I loved while I had the chance. The basement, with its shadows and mystery, became a crucible for reflection, a place where terror and tenderness collided, and I realized that love is not just a feeling, it is a call to awareness, a demand that we recognize and protect the precious moments and the people who give our lives meaning. Finding the source of the crying, a tiny, frightened kitten trapped among blankets and boxes, brought immediate relief, but it also carried a deeper lesson. The kitten was a symbol, in a way, of the delicate, vulnerable nature of those we care about. Just as the kitten had been lost, scared, and in need of care, so too are the people we love dependent on our attention, our presence, and our willingness to engage with them fully. In our day-to-day lives, we may take these relationships for granted, assuming that love and connection are constants. But life has a way of reminding us that they are precious, fleeting, and deserving of recognition and care. That tiny creature became a mirror, reflecting back to me the responsibility, the joy, and the emotional investment inherent in loving someone. In the quiet aftermath, holding the kitten close, I realized how much we underestimate the power of presence. My daughter's absence had made the house feel hollow, yet it also heightened my awareness of how much joy, comfort, and meaning she brought into it simply by being herself. We often measure our relationships by major events, birthdays, holidays, vacations, but the truth is that the moments that matter most are often the small, everyday interactions. A smile across the table, a shared joke, a comforting touch when life feels overwhelming. The basement incident, terrifying in the moment, became a reminder that it is these small, ordinary moments that accumulate into a profound sense of love and belonging, and that we ignore them at our own peril. Love is inseparable from awareness, and awareness often comes through unexpected trials. That night, fear and tension forced me to confront my emotions in a way that I might never have done otherwise. I recognized just how much I valued my daughter, how deeply I would feel her absence, and how fragile the sense of safety and normalcy we take for granted truly is. In these moments, the heart becomes attuned to what is most important, stripping away distractions and forcing clarity. I understood, in the sharpest, most visceral way, that to cherish someone is to notice them, to engage fully, to prioritize their presence and well-being even amid the chaos and noise of life. Disclaimer: this story is a dramatized retelling for entertainment purposes. Names, events, and situations have been fictionalized to enhance suspense and emotion. Viewer discretion is advised for sensitive content.